Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. At the beginning of the planning for my groceries, I normally do a planning video to show you how I plan out that 2-month haul, except that I did film one, but I was being tricky and doing 2 different cameras and things like that, and the sound didn't work. So I couldn't use it. So because I was already away and everything, I didn't refilm that. But what I thought was, because people still have a lot of questions about how it's planned and things like that, was that I would record it today at home. So I've already done my groceries, I've already done the supply run, I've already unpacked it, I've shared the shop with me and the actual grocery haul as such. And now I'm going to show you how I planned it out. And it's probably somewhat better to be showing you now, because it's going to give me the ability to reflect on how the planning traveled through to what I actually got and things like that too. So when we first started doing bulk groceries, we only did it fortnightly, about an hour and a half away, and then we went up to 4 weekly, and I was traveling to Costco on the same day, but that was a really long sort of a trip and it made things difficult. Then I had to go into Brisbane for something else, and I stayed at Mum's, and so I did my groceries while I was there. And we found that using the ability to have that overnight stay meant that I could go to more places. I could go to fruit and veg, and I could go to butcher. I found a fruit and veg store that has treated me very well, Mega Fresh at Browns Plains. Adam there is wonderful, and has allowed me to purchase things by the box full rather than just by small bags, which is really convenient for me for traveling, but also for once I get home, lack of rubbish, that sort of thing. And the Costco was a big thing for me. So I know a lot of people think that, or find that Costco doesn't really save them any money. I think that it depends on how you eat and how you shop, but you do have to be mindful about shopping there as well, because some of the stuff isn't worth paying it for. Like some of the dollar per hundred is not lower, or if you're buying a cheaper dollar per hundred, but you're buying 2 kilos and you're not going to eat it, then that's pointless as well. So I definitely think there's stuff that's worthwhile there for everyone if they could do it. And then there's the cost of being a member, which, you know, it counteracts it for some people, but for me, I probably make my membership back just in the cost of baker's flour, because we go through a lot of that. So for me, it works out, you know, fairly good that way. I also joined up with the executive membership, which gives me 2% off, 2% cash rewards back on each shop, which means that I paid extra for the membership, but that all the rewards back over the span of 12 months will pay for that membership, and then potentially give me some extra on top of that as well, which will go against my shop after that's given back. It's at the end of the financial year, I think. So yeah, there's very different purposes to shopping in the different places, and you have to pick what's going to work for you as well. But let me show you how I plan my fortnightly, not fortnightly, my twice monthly, 8 and 9 weekly, which is what we do now, shopping, and how I make sure that we get everything we need. I don't buy stuff that we don't need, and I try and make sure that we're buying enough to get us through that period of time. So I run a couple of different sheets and things to use. I use my iPad when I'm at home. I do take my iPad with me, but I don't take it out in the shops. I tend to use the Good Notes app on my phone, or I take screenshots. I have a few different things that I fill out before I go. I have this planner here, which I'm creating. It isn't finished in a way that I can sell it to anyone or give it to anyone yet, but I was creating this planner for my purposes and then trying to expand on it so it would work for other people as well. And each time I go shopping, I fill out one of these pages. I have a section where people have requested specific meals or things like that. I have a little plans one just in case there's something in particular that I'm planning that I need to take note of, and miscellaneous there as well. Some meal ideas in case I found something online or whatever that I want to use. So like this month I want to try and do the English muffins for the freezer, and then I found that orzo pasta, or the risotto pasta with the chorizo. I've got that bookmarked that I want to give that a go. I put a note here too about the chicken thighs. A viewer told me that Woolworths sells chicken thighs skin on, bone in, which are cheaper than buying them at Coles, so I had a note there for that as well. I also go through and I do my specials. So Coles and Woolworths run weekly specials, and they run from Wednesday to Tuesday. I am generally in Brisbane from Wednesday to Friday. So if the specials finish on Tuesday, I have to do them click and collect. So I do an online click and collect order at home before I even leave for the shopping, and I get that delivered to mum's for the Wednesday afternoon when I arrive. So I've got a list here of the specials that are on available till Tuesday, and then anything that comes up from the Wednesday forward, because I don't want to order it in the Tuesday. If it's going to be cheaper the next day, I will go in store and purchase it. So I go through the catalogues in the magazine and I mark down any half-price specials at Coles and Woolworths that are up to the Tuesday, and then from the Wednesday forward in case there's something that I want to collect in person. I also check the specials on the Costco app, so the items that were discounted for the period that I'm going to be down there. So this month there was passata, the whiting goujons, the hot dog sausages, corn chips, AA batteries, and the chorizo was on special as well, which sort of led into making that dish too. So I make sure I mark those down, and then some extra notes if I need to hear of things that I might need. So like I needed A4 paper, I needed the AA batteries, which turned out good because they were on sale, the bacon specific style for whatever we want for the freezer muffins, and then I wanted some barley, lentils, and some marshmallows. I do make our own marshmallows, but I've been slack, so I wanted to buy some just to have them there. I also then have other bits and pieces of notes. So I was trying to work out approximately how much of things that I would use in a 9-week period. So for things like dried pasta, if we have pasta dish twice a week, and we use 1.5 kilos of pasta per dish, that's leftovers for the next day as well, generally speaking. But if we were to have pasta twice a week over 9 weeks, and we had 3 500-gram packets of pasta for each meal, then we're talking 54 packets of pasta. Now that's not just spaghetti or just penne or whatever else, that's an inclusive thing. So we've got spaghetti and we've got risotto and we've got the penne and I've got the udon noodles and the ramen noodles and things like that, to equate to 54 meals from all of those different choices. And it seems 54 packets, sorry, so that there's 27 meals, 54 packets, so that is 3 packets twice a week for 9 weeks. And that seems, it sounds like so much, but it's not outside of normal to have 2 pasta meals a week. Like most places, people have 1 or 2 pasta meals a week. So I'm edging on 2. We might not have 2 every week, but to have the ability to have that stock there. I also looked at our oats. So at the moment we are eating a lot more oats than cereal because it's winter, so the kids are having the instant oats or just porridge. And so I looked at if they're having porridge every day instead of cereal, we're going through about 1.5 kilos for oats per 3 days. So again, it's only through certain points of the month, certain weather, that we would go through that much, but that's sort of, the top end of the quantity, which means that we need 31.5 kilos of oats per 9 weeks. So I wanted to work out what I had left and what I needed to get to that number. I also work out that I use around about, on average, 1 kilo of flour per day, whether that's plain or bakers or whatever else. Around about 1 kilo of flour per day is pretty average. Some days I might do a big lot of baking, I'll use 3 kilos, and the next 2 days I don't use any, but it works out on average of about 1 kilo per day. I also do myself up some lists of different places that I go, so I always go to Kmart, and I normally pick up school supplies and things from there. I actually was supposed to get the Harry McClary book this month, and I forgot, because we have some of the further books, but not the original one, and Kavik hadn't read it yet. I was going to look for that and I forgot. And then I have miscellaneous things written here as well. I have Bunnings down too, so wood screws. I actually forgot the white Gorilla Tape, but that's that. And then Big W as well, because I get 10% off once a month from Big W with the Everyday Reward, so I wanted to buy a few things at Big W. I didn't actually end up getting anything from Big W. The stuff that I wanted wasn't available. And then I have any miscellaneous things as well. Green hair dye for Sonnet, which we got. And there were some Everyday Rewards on some prepaid Sims, and with the kids going to Comic-Con, then I was going to get some of those while there was rewards on it, but it's a little bit too far out, so I didn't end up doing it. So I have this sort of working in progress. I also have an inventory, which you'll have seen before, because I shared the file in a few different places. I've shared it as a link in a couple of videos, and I've got it shared on my Patreon as well. So I have a running inventory of everything that I have here, so that I know what I don't need to buy, but it also helps me to see how quickly I'm going through what I do have. So I have them each month, I have them, and I can see how much I had left and how much I bought each month, which then gives me a sort of a sense of what I actually need per period so that I can be aware of it each time. So on my inventory this month, I actually color coded it because there was a few things that we got from a few different places and I wanted to make sure that I didn't double up. So I have a column here of what's left in my cupboard. I have a column here of what the base number of items that I would like to keep at all times, and then how much I need to take it up to that base level. Now my base levels have changed recently, like we've discussed a few times in videos about how we're eating more, the kids are eating more in winter and things like that. So I actually updated a lot of my base numbers when I was going through here and adjusted some of the things that I do get. So I used to buy a lot of spirals, and I actually find that I prefer the penne, so I swapped that to penne, and then I upped the numbers of the quantities of the pasta and stuff as I discussed because I worked out how much I needed. I also bumped some of the quantities of things like arborio and stuff. Again, in winter we tend to use this a bit more, and we use about 1 kilo per meal, so there was about bumping that up as well. The coconut UHT milk, I did get some from Costco, but I bulk ordered some from Hello Pure, so I didn't need as much. And then cow's milk, UHT cow's milk, we don't really use in winter because the only thing I really use it for is yogurt, and that's more of a summer breakfast, yogurt and granola. So then we just go through the list, and I've got my color code up here as to which highlight is for which store, and I just go through and I add everything that I want to use, adjusting the base levels as needed. Things like coffee, we go through more coffee beans in winter than we do in summer because we tend to drink tea in summer, but we drink more coffee in winter. So I needed to bump that quantity up. We went through every single bit of peanut butter that we had last month, so I bumped the quantities of that up and things like that. So I just went through and added anything that I think needed adding, adjusted totals for summer versus winter, and adjusted the base numbers to work for what we had. I had a blank sheet to add a few extra pieces on if I wanted to on that inventory as well. I just add an extra sheet as I go. Alright, so then once I've done all that prep work at home, I've got the spreadsheets on my phone or screenshots or note listing or the Good Notes app or whatever it is that I'm using. From that point forward, then I go to do the shopping. So from Home First, I do that click and collect order with the Tuesday specials at Coles and Woolworths. That's the first step. So after I've worked out all my inventories and everything else, I sit down, I do an online shop at Coles and Woolworths for click and collect using those specials that cease on Tuesday. Now I also take advantage of specials and flybys, so I have a flybys account and I have an everyday rewards account, which are Woolworths and Coles rewards systems. Flybys I had a special this month where I got 10% off one shop in the month, so up to a maximum of $50 off, so I made sure to take advantage of that, and any other specials that were there. There was a toothbrush special or something as well, so I bought one particular brand of toothbrushes that gave me almost enough points back that they were free, and Everyday Rewards had a 10% off as well because you get that once a month with their membership. So I spent just under $500 at both of those places to take full advantage of those 10% offs. Now, some of the stuff that I buy at Coles and Woolworths is the same price at Aldi, Coles and Woolworths. Things like oats, the dried spaghetti, dried penne, they're all within same margins of price, about 90 cents to $1 depending on which brand you buy. The generic, like there's different generic brands, but they're all in that scope. For the pasta, the oats are all $1.60, $1.70 per kilo. They've seemed to have gone up to $1.70 per kilo pretty much everywhere, but I didn't end up checking the price at Aldi to see if it had gone up because I had already purchased them. I will have to check that. There's certain things at Aldi that I always buy there that I won't buy at the others because it's much better price. Their tin coconut cream, I prefer their tin corn. It's a better price generally speaking, and I just like it. Their pesto, their jars of pesto are a better price than Coles or Woolworths, things like that. I tend to buy my cereal from Aldi. Coles and Woolworths have specials on Wheat Bix and rice bubbles and things like that quite regularly, and if you can get it on special then it's the same price as Aldi, but I find Aldi slightly cheaper on an everyday sort of a wavelength, so I tend to just buy them from there. Rice crackers are cheaper. I think it was 89 cents per pack at Aldi, versus the dollar something at least at Coles and Woolworths, so they do sometimes have half price specials, but again you have to you have to catch them, and I don't always catch the specials, so getting them at Aldi makes sense for me. So there's certain things that I buy at Aldi, certain things that I buy at other places. There's also certain things that I buy at both. So I bought rice milk from Woolworths because Woolworths has macro organic rice milk at $1.65 per litre. Aldi used to be cheaper. It used to be $1.59 per litre, and it is now $1.99 per litre. So I tend to buy some from both because I can only get limited amounts on each place. So once I do the click and collect, I wait until I receive those click and collect items because there's always things missing. It's just it's the way it works. So I get that order delivered to Mum's on the Wednesday afternoon when I arrive, and then I go through it before I do my shopping on Thursday. So then I go Thursday and I do my shopping at Carindale. Now Carindale has Coles, Woolworths, Aldi, Kmart, all of them, Big W, Best and Less, everything in one place. So I find it the most convenient. It does cost for parking, but I still find it the most convenient. The least, that's less than driving around to a whole bunch of different places to have it all there and easily accessible. I park the car undercover so that I can come back out to the car as many times as I need to during the day, as you've seen in the shop with me, and sometimes that's 4 or 5 times. Sometimes it's only once. It really just depends on the bulkiness of what I'm buying that day. So I've made myself a list of things that were missed in Coles and Woolworths, or the things that were in those Wednesday start specials, and that's what I'm going into there for. So the first up is I do that and Kmart and things like that. I get that all out in the car, make sure I've got what I needed there, just in case there was some things I couldn't get again, and then I go and do Aldi, and then I get everything I need to get there. And as I showed in the shop with me, the way I shop at Aldi is that there's only sort of like a dozen single items, but there's 200 in the trolley sort of thing. So I only put a single one of each of those items onto the conveyor belt, and I just tell them how many of each there are, and they scan that through, which makes it convenient for me. So then once Aldi's done, I generally do Bunnings and stuff on the same day as well, but that's not as important in the scope of what I'm doing. I finish up for the day and I write some notes again. So I have a notebook that I take with me. I have my iPad as well, but I really like pen and paper. And I do things like this particular one. I wrote down all the meat that I had got between those 3 places to see what sort of kilo of meats I got. So when working out meat, it's a little bit more difficult to figure out exactly how much we need or we will use, more to the point. Now, if you look at the Australian health standards of protein intake via meat and things like that, it's something along the lines of 130 grams per person per day, which ends up being just over a kilo of meat or protein source per day in our household. So over 9 weeks, you're looking at 63, that took me far longer than it should have, 63 kilos odd of meat for that time period. Now, some meals we eat don't have meat at all, and some meals that we eat have far more than 130 grams per person in meat because it's a specialty meal, like steak. Our steaks are probably, the kids might not be, but Darryl's and mine might, because I tend to cut them thick. Or sometimes when we're having chicken, if it's a specialty chicken, there might be more. I've never weighed a chicken leg, but generally speaking, the kids will eat 2 or 3 chicken legs in a meal. I'm not sure how much that would weigh. But yeah, so sometimes some of the meals have far more, and some we don't have meat at all, and sometimes we don't eat meat twice a day, we only eat it once a day. So it really, and then there's the other protein sources. We eat black beans as well, we eat plenty of vegetables, we eat, some meals have, a rice dish or a pasta dish that doesn't have meat in it. So, but on an average, I like to use these measuring sticks. It's a bit like how I use the measuring stick for dollar per person per meal. It's not like every meal costs that. It's just giving me this measuring stick to judge the quantity that I've spent over the entire time and how it works out on a daily basis. So I normally have a notebook and I write down any sort of specials and meat and stuff that I got, just so that I'm aware of what I've purchased before I then go to the butcher and Costco, because otherwise I could double up. And whilst that's fine, we will eat it all, it'll freeze, it'll whatever happens, we're trying to stay within a certain dollar value. And that budget has gotten a little bit more loose for me these days. The YouTube has definitely helped to fund groceries. Groceries are our most expensive thing. Like, we do not spend that much on anything else on a weekly basis. Groceries are the highest cost we have, and we're lucky that we have such low overheads that that's the case. But it does mean that when I have a little bit of extra income, that I can spend a little bit more on it if I want to, and this month I definitely did. So whilst I'm still trying to stay, I'm not being particularly frugal. I am being mindful though. What we want is we want to be mindful about what we're purchasing, make sure that we're not spending money for the sake of spending money, making sure that we're not spending more on groceries than we're going to consume, and that there's not going to be waste. We want to only buy what's going to be eaten, consumed, used, and not wasted. So I normally sit down and do that again on the Thursday night, calculate whatever else extra I bought, have a think about what I got from the other places, and just sort of have a set idea in my mind before I head to the butcher and Costco. And then that way I'm aware. So I only buy things that are on special generally at the butcher. There's like the steak and that sort of thing pricing at the butcher is much lower than Costco, but I don't buy that at Costco anyway. So if I am buying steak, I will tend to buy it at the butcher, but I don't buy it very often. We bought it this month, which was very much of a splurge, but we don't buy it very often because it's just too expensive. So I do buy that sort of thing, but I try and get their specials if they've got some specials on chicken or on bacon or little Frankfurt sausages for the kids or whatever stuff. I try and check that out, but it's right next to the fruit and veg, so the main purpose of heading there is that I go to the fruit and veg shop. Now, I don't plan my fruit and veg other than to say, I need onions and carrots and potatoes or something like that, because Adam sees me. I go and see Adam at Mega Fresh at Browns Plains, and I buy the box full. So I tend to buy whatever's in season or that he's got surplus for, or if he's got any seconds box of things and things like that. And I buy according to price. Some things I'll still buy. Even when bananas are expensive, I quite often buy a box of bananas. Even when apples are a little more expensive than they could be, I still buy a box of apples because the kids still want fruit and deserve fruit and fresh fruit. So, to a degree, I still purchase the fruit, but I definitely purchase more. Like, I'm buying oranges at the moment because it's orange season. If it was plum season, I'd be buying plums and things like that. So it definitely depends on what's in season, but at the same time, I will spend more for certain things because we need it. Same as onions, potatoes, and carrots. I always buy them, but I just might not buy an excess of them if they're more expensive. I'll just buy a base level of them. And I still purchase frozen vegetables every month so that they can sit in the freezer and be used if we haven't got much in the way of fresh there. So I do that, and then I head to Costco to pick up anything that I may have forgotten. Like I forgot onions at the fruit and veg this month, so I bought them at Costco, but then to buy my standard stuff at Costco. Now there's always split sort of thought on the value of Costco, and for some people I'm sure it doesn't have much value. It really depends what you buy, the quantities that you buy, and how you shop and how you eat. I just worked out, someone was saying that Costco was not any cheaper than Coles, and I was sitting there going, just in baker's flour alone I save a lot of money. So I had to look it up, and baker's flour, the basic baker's flour, Wallabies baker flour at Coles is $2.80 a kilo. The basic baker's flour at Costco is $1 a kilo. So for me, who goes through on average a kilo of baker's flour a day, that is a $650 saving in 12 months. Now, membership, even the executive membership that I have, is only $130 a year. So even if I bought nothing but flour, baker's flour from Costco, I would be paying for my membership and saving a large quantity of cash, $500 worth of cash. So for me, it's definitely worthwhile. There's other things. Olive oil. Now, olive oil's gone way up in price at the moment, but it was still $78 for 6 litres at Costco, which is about $1.30 per 100. And if I work that out on the base cheapest olive oil that you can buy at Coles, currently it was $1.59 per 100. So it would have been $95 for 6 litres instead of the 78. Aldi's olive oil was a little bit cheaper. It was $1.40 per 100, but still, again, it was $14 a litre versus $13 a litre, and I did grab some from both. There are other things, I don't know, things like the pork roast. The pork roast, when they're on special at Coles, are quite a good price, but like their base boneless pork roast is $11 a kilo, and it is $6.99 to $7.99 at Costco. It was $7.99 the month before last and only $6.99 this month, but $6.99, $7.99. So there is a lot of things that you can save on at Costco if that's the type of thing that you're buying, and if you're aware of pricing. And for me, it's definitely worthwhile. Some of the meat is the same price. Some of the chicken thighs and chicken breasts are sometimes the same price. Now, Coles and Woolies have recently brought down the price of like their chicken. But Costco being the last place that I stop is more beneficial for me for things going into an esky before we go for the further 2.5, 3 hour drive home, and because I do Coles and that on the day before. So beneficially for me is to buy most of my meat at Costco on the way out. So we do. But the beef trim, I can't get beef trim like that anywhere else. $9.99 a kilo, and I can, depending on that trim, it's either mince or it is, and it's good quality mince, or I use it as, you know, stir fry or stews and things like that. That's not something I can get anywhere else for that sort of price. So, you know, it really just depends on how you shop, what you eat, and you just have to be mindful about it. And then when you're walking through Costco, be mindful of the dollar per hundred, and of how much you're going to go through. So I think my biggest tip for anyone looking to do bulk purchasing over longer periods of time, who hasn't done longer periods of time for shopping before now, is inventory. So if you have a running inventory that you fill out every time before you go shopping, every time you go shopping, then you're going to have a running total of how much you use as well. So the next month you'll be able to look at that and go, well, I had this much left, I bought this much, and now I have this much left. And that's going to give you an idea of how much you go through in each period of time, whether you run out, whether you need more, and all that sort of thing. So for me, the biggest thing ever, and that I suggest to anyone who's looking to try and save money in their groceries and change their style, is to inventory, to know exactly what's in your pantry, exactly what's in your fridges and freezers, and then from that be able to work out exactly how much you use in a certain period of time. And then you can have a buffer for that. We always have a slight buffer, but you can also be aware that you're not going to be buying so much that it's going to go to waste. I really think that it's just such an important aspect, is understanding how much of everything you use. And I don't meal plan or anything. I have never been a meal planner because I much prefer to decide what I want to eat when I'm ready to eat it, but also because I buy seasonal veggies and fruit and stuff that makes it a little bit more difficult. But when I get home, as you see when you see the videos, so from this point forward, I will share videos of how I'm using the food that I purchased and that sort of thing. And a lot of the things about that is that you got to use things in order of when they need to be used by. So we put a lot of stuff straight in the freezer, but things like the chicken thighs and chicken breasts need to be something done with them before they can be frozen, or they get consumed as the first point. So I eat according to that. So if I'm going to do something with chicken thighs, if I'm going to cook them up to be able to freeze them or whatever, then I'll eat them in a meal that night as well, so that it's not double handling. And sort of that's the thing. Today I've done roasted tomatoes, trays of roasted tomatoes. The tomatoes needed to be used, so I've done trays of roasted tomatoes, made fresh bread, and we're going to have roasted tomato soup with fresh bread, and whatever of the roasted tomatoes left, I'll put in the freezer to use for a different meal. And so that decides our meals a lot of the times, is whatever needs to be used next. I go in the fridge and go, oh look, I got half a cabbage that needs to be used, we'll have ramen tonight, or something like that. And I find that works, but I know that a lot of people feel that they need to meal plan to be able to assess what they're using, but I think that that sometimes meal planning costs you more, because then you're stuck in what that is, and you have to buy things according to that rather than using the staples of what you have. So I try to stick to what a lot of people refer to as a one ingredient kitchen. We don't by any means actually fit that, but to a degree, everything I buy has multiple uses. So I try and buy something in its most purest form so that I can use it for a variety of different things, rather than having lots of different things. And something simple as like mayo. So we make all our mayo. So I have eggs and oil and Dijon mustard and lemon juice, and I can make oil and I can make mayo. But those four items can be used to make hundreds of other things as well. So I'm not limited to only having like 10 pre-made bottles of mayo on my shelf. I have those single items, and I can do all sorts of things with that. So I hope that that was helpful, informative, enjoyable, whatever, for people. Sometimes I feel like it's talking about it, it feels like, I don't know, I've learned how to figure it out, and it now just feels natural to me. It just feels like the right way to do it, and there's lots of thought going on behind it, but I couldn't tell you exactly how I think through it sometimes. As I'm walking through Costco, Mum's there, sometimes I talk to her about, oh, I'm going to buy this because I'm doing this, because, and she goes, you don't have to validate it to me, you don't need my permission. And I think sometimes it's not that at all. It's more just that I'm verbalizing what I've already planned out, and then making it work when I'm sitting there in the shops as well. And I know that that would probably help too, if I could record that kind of thing as I was going along, but I suck at it. So we'll see how we go. But thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next video, which should be the start of all this food prep planning and preserving for this month.